Welcome to Zen Doodling II with Mrs. I. I'm glad you're back. We're going to continue on the drawing that I started yesterday. And as you can see, I'm doing something called a tessellation. And what that is when I start at a corner and then I go just ahead of the corner of the next line and ahead of the corner of the next line and ahead of the corner of the next line. And you can see you get kind of that 3D pattern where it looks almost like you're going down into a wormhole or something like that. It's one of my favorite things, and you can do it with a lot of different shapes. Now, in the circle shape, what I decided to do is I decided to make X's. And so I just made X's all over, and then I drew around them. I kind of shadowed around them. Now, as you can see, my X's aren't the greatest. They could be a little bit more even, and I probably could take my time a little bit more. And it would probably help if I wasn't looking through my phone as well. But so I'm just going to kind of shadow those. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Sharpie marker and I'm going to try and color in the spaces in between the bubbles around the X's. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have used my thin marker to do this because it's not doing as good a job as I would like. And when you look at the final product, there's a lot of kind of things that I'll probably touch up with my smaller marker, but it makes the shading go a little bit faster, and that's helpful. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of cut off a spot that I think will work well for the next design that I want to do. And what I'm going to do with that design is you can kind of see what I'm doing there. I'm making little sort of X's. I'm making little bubbles, or not X's, triangles. I'm trying to make them into little triangles. And I'm not doing as good a job as I probably could. But again, with Zen doodling, it just doesn't matter. And what you're going to see, because I don't really like how it looks, I feel like it's kind of messy, I decided I'm going to try and color in between those. And I'm not going to color it in a solid shade, and I'm not using my Sharpie because the spaces are too small, but I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of a shading in with my thin marker. Now, another thing that you could do is you could use pencil and kind of shade that in. You can do a lot of really cool kind of shadowy things with pencil. So that's another thing I could have done. And we'll see. Yep. So you can see I'm trying to shade that all in. And it's working all right. Like I said, once it's all done, you don't even see some of those mistakes that you, when you look at it, you're like, oh my goodness, this looks terrible. All right, now I'm going to take this little part. I want to finish off kind of this edge, and I'm just making squares. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make lines going in different directions to kind of give it some texture. So I just don't want any of the lines that are together to match. So that's kind of my goal for this piece. Now, this next one is one of my favorite designs. I love doing just swirls. So you just take little swirls and you can go all in the same direction. You can go in different directions. You can do the same size. You can do different size. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you think. I tried to do some on the edges just to make it look like it was full of those little swirls. And so you can decide, like I said, whatever you want. There's nothing, you can't do anything wrong, which is kind of the fun part, I think. Yep, so I'm just finishing up there. Yeah, so now I'm just going to kind of touch up a little bit around the edges, make sure I've got all my the space is full. Now this is kind of a fun one, and it's kind of a bizarre one, but basically what I'm doing is I'm starting in a corner, I'm making a line, and then I'm just making like a little teardrop at the end of that. And that's a good way to fill in some space, but leave some white space as well. Again, contrast, but kind of opposite of the contrast that we did with our X's. We'll see you tomorrow when we continue our doodling.